Hello, friends. Welcome to the Historic Reflections. And today we have a very interesting subject to discuss. And why it is interesting? Because it is related to the depth on the land, on the surface of the earth. And you would ask why this is covered as part of historic reflection. Simply because we have finally identified the deepest place on the land, on the surface of the earth, and what are the implications of being the deepest location on the land, not on the ocean, and how the geology and how the different aspects on the earth changes the or affect the life around these deeper points. We will actually understand in today's program in the historic reflection. But first, the deepest point on the land on earth was declared today on December 12th in the year 2019. And this is a remarkable discovery because mankind has been around for several millennia, but nobody bothered to basically calculate the deepest point on the surface of the earth. Now the deepest point that was declared on December 12th, which is today in the year 2019, is located in Antarctica, and it is basically at the bottom of Denman Glacier. And believe it or not, this is the deepest point, which is the surface of the Denman Glacier, is 3.5 kilometers below the sea level. Astonishing, it is so deep, 3.5 kilometers below the sea level. So we will come to this discovery, but let us understand what are the other deep locations across the world and how it helps shape the geological environment in that area. So first is the deepest point in India, and India is a very diverse country, as you know, and it has mountains, world highest mountain. It has huge lakes, and it also has huge river systems, and a lot of fertile land, of course, a lot of people. So the deepest point in this country is located in a state of Kerala, which is in the south of India, and it is known as Kutand. The area is called Kutand. It is only 2.2 meters below sea level, and because it is below sea level, that means water will rush in from ocean to inland in this area. So that is why this area is very, very famous for backwaters, because what happens is when the seawater rushes in, and by the way, Kerala is a coastal state, and it is in the southmost part of India with the coastline connecting the Arabian Sea, which is part of the Indian Ocean. So the algae-rich water of Indian Ocean rushes inside into the mainland, and since this is 2.2 meters below sea level, it mixes with the water, which is the river water, fresh water, and it creates a very unique blend of salt water, fresh water mix. The salinity of that water is slightly lower than the ocean water, and it is also higher than the fresh water. Of course, fresh water doesn't have any salt, so this less salty character of the water creates a totally different kind of fauna and flora, and that is why Kerala is lush green, and it has certain species found only in the backwater areas which are not found anywhere else in the world. And the backwater also create these permanent ponds filled with a lot of fishes and all different kind of characters, different kind of animal species in these backwaters. And the reason for this backwater to exist, because this area is 2.2 meters below the sea level, so the water will not rush in as if it is coming like a flood, but still it will intermingle with the fresh water which is coming from various lakes and rivers towards the ocean, and the ocean will rush in because the depth of the land is 2.2 below the sea level. Okay, let's move to other interesting areas, because this Bhutan is located in a very tropical environment. A lot of rains, monsoons, etc. happens. So there is no dearth of water. The water is coming from ocean. There is a lot of rain which is falling on the land. And so it is a very lush green area. What about other places on the surface of the earth which are below sea level? Well, let's move to the next one, which is in Australia, and this is called Lake Erie in Australia. It is in the northwestmost part of Australia, and because of this, as you can see, this is below the sea level, 15 meters below sea level, and it has some bit of extra salt. There is no intermingling of fresh water happening. So because of that, this Lake Erie is very large structure, and it has excess salt in it, and because of that, this land is absolutely barren. Not even a single blade of grass grows in this area. And even though this is deeper than what we have actually discussed a moment back about Indian deepest location, but this is in Australia, and because of the land surface below the sea level, the water rushes in, but it cannot go out. So the constituency of the water is very similar to the ocean water, but it is landlocked. So it is lake, but it is a salt lake, and because of that, there are hardly any. Only very specific type of bacteria can survive in Lake Erie. All right, so let's move to the next interesting point on the surface of the earth. Well, this is in the Americas. This is the deepest point in the entire Americas, which is including north as well as south, and this is located in the Death Valley area in California. And the deepest location in the Americas, in the entire America, is called Badwater Basin. Well, as the name suggests, bad water, whereas the water is not there. It essentially has very, very high amount of salt, and this is the deepest location in the entire America. It is 85.5 meters below the sea level. So, and it's quite high up in the mountains. So there is no connection between the ocean and the Badwater Basin. But it has, the Badwater Basin was actually millions of years back was actually covered in water. It had a lot of sea water in it, but because of the geological movement, the entire Grand Canyon and this area has risen up in the sky. So it's quite cold there. Yet and the water has evaporated and leaving behind the salt. So the Death Valley has a lot of salt, and there are a lot of instructions given if you are basically roaming around in that area, that you should not be going very far away from your vehicle, because it, people have seen and there are experience that if you move too much away from habitation, then within 2 hours you may die because of dehydration. And the thing is that because there is a lot of salt, the salt basically remove the water from your body, even you without realizing it. So this is a very crazy area. It is very high up in the mountains, yet it is 85.5 meters below sea level, and because of that, it is one of the worst area for humans to visit. This area in America is called Badwater Basin. All right, let's move to the next one. Now this is in Africa. Well, I have taken the deepest point in every continent. This is in Africa, and this is called Lake Assel, and it's actually a crater lake. The crater could have been created by the asteroid which had fallen zillions of years back on the surface of the earth. It's a huge lake, and it is astonishingly 155 meters below sea level, quite inland, and it's quite far from the ocean. So there is no connection between the lake and the ocean, but it has lot of salinity because it is below the below the sea level. So most of the water has nowhere to go. Unlike if you have lakes and rivers at the sea level, then the water will keep filtering into ocean, then it get replenished because of the rain system. But since Lake Assel is in Djibouti in Africa, northern Africa, it is actually in Sahara, in the desert area, and there is hardly any rain, and it's huge lake. And because the water has nowhere to go, it cannot filter the salt, so it's very salty. And as you can see in this picture, there are hardly any vegetation. First of all, the heat is also there, and the water is quite salty, and it is 155 meters below sea level. All right, is there anything lower than this? Of course, the lowest point is the Dead Sea, which is in on the border of Israel and Palestine. Dead Sea is the deepest point on the surface of the earth until we found the Antarctica deep point. Now, Dead Sea is, as the name suggests, it's a huge lake, very high amount of salt concentration, and 298 meters below sea level. Well, the best part of Dead Sea is that when you have excess salt in the water, the buoyancy of the body actually increases. If you remember the Archimedes principle, the water has less salt, your body is less buoyant, and the chances are that you may go down into the water. But in Dead Sea, the important thing is that you will never sink into the water. So people actually sit as if they're sitting on a chair without fear of sinking in this place. So this is so unique. And yet the properties of Dead Sea is similar to similar bodies that we have discussed in Africa and Australia. It's very, very salty. It's probably among the highest salt concentration anywhere in any freshwater lake, and this is saltwater lake. Nothing grows around the Dead Sea, and very little amount of wildlife exists in this area. So the side effect so far we have seen is that if the land is below the sea level, over time it will accumulate water, and water becomes very salty. And these deeper points, unlike the Indian deepest point, which is very close to the ocean, so it mingles with the ocean water, and there is little bit of filtration of salt that happens. But otherwise, in these areas, the lake or the water body accumulates a lot of salt and becomes very salty. So let's go back to the announcement made in 2019, which on December 12th, about the 3.5 kilometers below the sea level in Antarctica, the deepest point on the surface of the earth, under the glacier, which is Tasman Glacier. And you can imagine that the thickness of the ice sheet itself will be more than 3.5 kilometers in this area, at least 4 to 5 kilometers, the thickness of the glacier ice sheet. So what are the peculiar habitat it would create at that depth? Because elsewhere on the earth we have seen that it creates a non-life worthy environment, very salty. So in this area in Antarctica, which is the deepest point, and it's quite deep, compared to few meters deep of Dead Sea to astonishingly 3.5 kilometers below the sea level. So I think this offers scientists a great opportunity to study and identify what are the peculiar flora and fauna that might exist at that depth. And also, that when the excess pressure of the ice basically increase the pressure, will also increase the temperature, and because of that there might be a situation that at that depth there could be liquid water, warm water. So it would be interesting to see that what kind of flora and fauna exist in the total darkness below the ice, 3.5 kilometers below the sea level, in the water under this ice sheet. So I think this is something which is quite interesting. And finally, using different techniques, radar techniques, we were able to identify the deepest point on Earth on December 12th in the year 2019. So if you are astonished by this announcement or this discovery, and if you have any questions, feel free to write in. And if you have further knowledge about the subject, I will be more than eager to hear your suggestions and comments. So as always, friends, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next edition of Historic Reflections. Bye-bye.